It's probably why you landed on this video because it's what I do. I read tarot for people. Just recently, this prompt came up on YouTube, 13 questions on tarot. So I thought I would answer them for you as I flip through two of my decks just to give you something to look at. But yeah, this is the type of video that you can just think of as a podcast. So you can just tune the video out and listen to what I have to say. All right, our first prompt is, what is tarot to you? And this is something I say over and over on my podcast, Your Weekly Oracle. Tarot to me is a tool to help you reflect on yourself. Tarot is a mirror for self-reflection. I didn't coin that phrase. I took it from one of the many teachers I've had over the years. It's a way for me to connect to my intuition. It's a way for me to clarify what I want out of life, how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking about. It's a way for me to look into what it is that I really want beneath all the layers of pretension, maybe beneath the facades that I put up. So it's a way for me to connect to myself. It's a way for me to be honest with myself. Second prompt, do you read for yourself or for others? I read for others, and that's probably why you landed on this video because it's what I do. I read tarot for people, but I also read for myself. I don't do it as frequently as I do for others, but I do pull a card for myself every day. Just a single card, and I guess that's the super bare minimum when it comes to reading for yourself. Just pulling a card and reflecting on what it could mean. Third question, with what frequency do you read tarot for yourself? So I would argue that I read for myself every day because I pull a single card for myself every morning. But when we talk about bigger spreads, more in-depth readings, probably once a quarter, maybe once every 2 months. I used to do it more frequently, but I think with age, I don't feel like I need it too much. I don't have a lot going on in my life that would require readings very often. And that's something I'm very grateful for. Okay, what types of readings do you do? So on my website, practicalmagic.co, I offer 3 distinct types of readings. It used to be more, but I've narrowed it down. So the first type is called an energy check reading, which involves 7 cards, and these cards represent the different chakras or energy centers in our lives, and this is just meant to take your temperature, your energetic temperature, help you figure out where you're at. The second type of reading that I do is called the practical magic reading. This is essentially my take on the Celtic cross, and it goes into mind, body, spirit, past, present, future, and also tackles 3 questions submitted by the querent. But I also have a version of this reading where some people don't have anything to ask, so I do a version where I just pull cards and see what they have to say minus the prompts. This is editing Chingai coming in because I completely forgot the third type of reading that I do, and it's called the no questions reading. So this is a totally context-free type of reading where someone asks me for a reading, a no questions reading, and I have a series of 12 prompts that I talk about and pull cards for. And these prompts kind of give you a pretty big overview of where your energy's at, what's influencing you, what your concerns are rooted on. It moves from the very personal to the more social to the more, I guess, worldly type of concerns. It's inspired by a reading taught to me by one of my teachers, Lindsay Mack from Wild Soul Healing, and it's also inspired by astrology in a way, because there are frameworks in astrology that move from the very personal, the me centric type of ideas and notions, to more how you interact with your environment and people around you, over to the more spiritual stuff. So the no questions reading covers all of that and gives you a broad overview of what's going on in your life, what you want to happen next, and how to get where you want to head towards. Fifth question, regarding what types of things do you typically consult tarot? So for myself, I usually pull tarot or do readings when I feel unsettled. Before, like, I would really go into specifics, like, oh, if I'm going through a specific issue, then I'll do a reading for myself. But right now, when life has been pretty steady, I just pull cards for myself when I feel a little restless, sometimes when I'm bored and I have nothing to do. So I don't really consult tarot about anything specific. I use it to help me figure out where restlessness is coming from, or where that feeling of being unsettled is coming from. It's more general. It's like this feeling I get with it where I'm ungrounded, or I feel I need support with something, but I can't really pinpoint what. That's when I consult the tarot, because I feel like starting off with this very general, very vague feeling can really help me engage with the cards in a way that a specific question can't. Sixth question, how would you classify yourself as a reader? I.e., book meanings, experiential, figurative, literal, etc. I think I'm a mix of book meanings and experiential. A lot of the times, I like to refer to the typical traditional meanings of the tarot, but they're given flavor by the context with which I'm pulling cards. So, not if you've ever tried reading tarot and have gone by the definitions in the little white book, you'll find that sometimes the meanings in the little white book don't actually target what what your question is, and that's where experience and context really comes into play. I would also think of myself as more like a psycho-spiritual type of reader, where I really give importance to like the mindset someone's in and connect that to more woo-woo aspects of the tarot. What types of questions do you ask tarot? So going back to my earlier response, I don't really ask specific questions, but like when people want to get readings from me and don't know what to ask, I always tell them to start with, what do I need to know about fill in the blanks? I think that's the most helpful question. So with me, when I pull for cards for myself and I'm feeling unsettled, like, what do I need to know about my current state of restlessness? What questions do you never ask tarot? I don't ask yes or no or predictive questions. I don't ask time frame questions. I don't ask place type of questions, because I feel like that's just not the way I use tarot. Because if tarot is a mirror for self-reflection, or a mirror of what my emotions and thoughts are, I don't think that time and place questions or yes and no questions really apply. So if I were to use the tarot as a predictive tool, then those questions would definitely be in my wheelhouse, but that's not how I read, and so that's why I don't ask those questions. Next question, who do you think you are engaging with or speaking with when you read tarot? So I definitely speak with myself. I mean, there's guidance from the universe, I suppose. If you believe in higher power, then that comes into play. But I think for the most part, it's like 95% I'm just talking to myself. 10th question, what other knowledge or experience do you apply to tarot readings? Astrology, numerology, religion, mythology, psychology. So I'm not an astrologer, although I have basic knowledge of astrology, so sometimes I'll integrate that. Numerology always. If you've ever gotten a reading from me, you'll know that I mention this a lot. Like, I pay attention to the numbers that show up in readings, and if I ever see patterns, I always mention them for the people that I read for. Psychology, I'm not a psychologist, but I do have a bit of training when it comes to meditation and stuff like that. So when it's pertinent, then I'll mention it. Next question. Tarot is the book of life. Where else in your world or life do you witness tarot? I witness it everywhere, and I think it's because tarot is the book of life. It's a way of looking at collective emotions, thoughts, and experiences of people. It's a reflection of humanity. And that's why I see it everywhere, because, I am living out a human experience. I see it particularly in movies and books, like in stories. I think of tarot readings as like little narratives too. And I think that's why whenever I'm watching a movie, I always like spot, okay, this is the hero's journey, or this is the death part or the tower part of a story. That's the most like obvious to me. And of course, because I read for people, like when people are talking to me, not as a tarot reader, but as a friend, and they're like sharing their stories, I don't say it out loud, but sometimes I can like detect like, oh, okay, so this person's going through a King of Cups moment or something like that. Have you experienced where tarot has correctly predicted the future? How did you feel when it came to pass? So again, I have to emphasize that I don't use tarot to predict the future. However, there are like I do believe in synchronicity, where it feels like right place, right time kind of thing. And the most distinct story, the most recent one I have is like, well, this isn't the tarot, but I was using an oracle deck, the Quiet Mystic Oracle deck. I pulled the Sparks card, and the image of that card is a match, and that was the day that our house burned. So I mean, it didn't predict the future, but boy, when that fire was happening, all I could think about was the card that I pulled that morning, and how it really mirrored what was going on. How did I feel? I feel like there's magic everywhere when this happens. I think the magic doesn't lie in what comes out of the card, but it lies in the connections we're able to make between two seemingly unrelated things. That's where magic happens. And our final question: if you are a witch or magical practitioner, how, if applicable, does tarot fit in your magical practice? I don't consider myself a witch. I don't consider myself a magical practitioner. I just think I'm an ordinary person who can find magic in the little things. And that's what tarot has taught me. It has taught me to be more observant, to pay more attention, because I think it's like when we pay more attention and we are more observant, we will just notice how magical things happen in the most mundane places, in the most unassuming of people, in the most normal events. That's what tarot has taught me, and it's how I've been able to, I guess, insert magic into my daily routines, my daily life. And this is something that I really try to communicate through your weekly oracle, through these videos, through the cards that I make. It really focuses on how magic can be found in the little things, in the things that we encounter on the daily. The magic also doesn't come from those little things, but again, in the connections that we make between those little things and whatever shows up for us in our cards. So that's it. Those are my answers to these 13 questions about tarot. I hope you learned something, and go ahead and answer those questions too if you feel so inclined. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.